Today we will be talking about the murder of Robert Wone. On the night of August 2nd, 2006, 32-year-old attorney Robert Eric Wone walked into a friend's home in Washington, D.C., and by midnight was stabbed to death. Almost 2 decades later, no one has ever been charged with his murder. This case has become one of the Capitol's most puzzling unsolved crimes. Today, Liv and I will walk you through the timeline, the evidence, the key people, and why the case remains open to this day.
Robert Wone was a respected attorney and general counsel for Radio Free Asia. He had married Catherine Wone, who went by the nickname Kathy. In 2003, they lived together in Virginia. On August 2, 2006, Robert attended a work seminar, stayed late at the office, and called Kathy at about 9:30 p.m. to tell her he would find somewhere to sleep in the city instead of going all the way back to their home in Virginia. He arranged to stay at the home of his friends Joseph Price and his roommates Victor Zaborski and Dylan Ward. The three of them lived at 1509 Swan Street Northwest, Washington, D.C. An important point to note is that Price, Zaborski, and Ward were in what was known as a polyamorous relationship, meaning they were all dating each other. However, Robert met Price at the College of William and Mary in the early 1990s. They stayed in contact with each other and continued the friendship. The men had hung out with the couple about 3 times a year.
Robert arrived at the Swan Street house at about 10:30 p.m. The men later said they talked and caught up in the kitchen for a little while, then Wone went upstairs to take a shower and everyone went to bed. What happened next is the heart of the mystery. The events that occurred between 10:30 and 11:49 p.m. remain unknown to this day. Zaborski claims in his interrogation that he and Price were woken up in their bedroom on the 3rd floor to the sound of screams below them. They went down to the 2nd floor where Ward and Wone were to see what had happened. They then found Wone lying on the pull-out bed with multiple stab wounds. Zaborski also mentions hearing the back door chime, however, there's no evidence that confirms or denies this. Dylan never claimed hearing anything, even though he was the closest to Robert's room, and at this time, no one called 911.
At around 11:49 p.m., Zaborski finally called 911. When talking to the operator, he sounded frantic. Price told him while he was on the phone that Wone had been stabbed, and the operator immediately told him to apply pressure to the wounds. Paramedics arrived on scene about 5 minutes later, where they found Robert lying on a pull-out sofa bed in the guest room with 3 deep stab wounds. They were instantly confused about how little blood there was on and how calm the other men appeared. They rushed him to the George Washington University Hospital, and at 12:25 a.m., Robert Wone was pronounced dead. Medical staff collected a sexual assault evidence kit. However, it didn't produce any useful leads because it only detected the victim's DNA.
The news reports, the Metropolitan Police Department quickly suspected the crime scene had been altered. The scene didn't just include the guest room where Robert was found, but also the rest of the house, including the bedrooms, the kitchen, bathrooms, and laundry areas, because evidence could have been moved or cleaned up. Police processed the scene that night and into the next day. They collected a knife lying near Robert's body, towels and sheets, clothing from the men, samples from drains and lint traps, and even sections of flooring and stair rails. They also noted that a knife was missing from the butcher block in the kitchen. When they collected Robert's devices, they found 2 drafted emails that were written that night at 11:05 p.m. and 11:07 p.m. One was to his wife, telling her that he had arrived and was going to bed after his shower. The other was to a colleague, confirming lunch for the next day. This suggests Robert was still conscious at this time. This is major when it comes to trying to figure out the time of his attack. Even with all of this evidence, none of it produced clear results. The knife next to Robert's body didn't match his wounds. The kitchen knife was still missing. The emails were completely normal and didn't give detectives any leads, and there was no blood pattern analysis strong enough to show if the body had been moved or wiped down. Since the scene might have been altered before police arrived, even good samples didn't reflect how the room looked at the time of the attack or explain what had happened in that house.
The morning after his death, an autopsy was performed. The results were troubling. It showed 3 deep stab wounds and a massive amount of internal bleeding, but almost no external blood or defensive injuries. Several puncture marks were found on Robert's body. Some were consistent with medical treatment, but others were unexplained. The toxicology screening done was limited and didn't detect any unusual sedatives, meaning there was no way to prove Wone had been drugged before his attack. The core forensic issues in this case are very small amount of blood found, No signs of any struggles throughout the house, an unmatched knife, unexplained puncture marks, and a toxicology test that may have missed more uncommon sedatives. However, nothing that all three of the men said in an interrogation could be used to prove that they killed Wone. All of their stories were the same, and they stuck to their story throughout the whole case.
Some forensic resources were never fully used or could be redone today. Broader drug testing could show if Robert was unconscious or sedated at the time of his attack. More detailed blood pattern analysis could reveal whether his body had been moved or wiped. New chemical tests could be run on drains and laundry areas to find hidden blood. Digital evidence, such as door chime logs, phones, or computers, could help establish movement and timing, and the neighbors could be re-interviewed and their reports of screams or noises compared to try to figure out an accurate timeline. These steps would directly address the unanswered questions about how Robert died and what happened to all the evidence.
In October 2008, more than 2 years after the murder, prosecutors charged Price, Zaborski, and Ward not with murder but with obstruction of justice, conspiracy, and tampering with evidence. Official statements accused the men of lying to police and altering the scene. In June 2010, after a bench trial, Judge Lynn Leibovitz acquitted them of those charges, saying that although the evidence strongly suggested a cover up, it did not meet the legal standard of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Kathy Wone filed a wrongful death lawsuit in November 2008 but settled out of court in August 2011.
The key people in this story are Robert Wone, his wife Catherine Wone, and the three men in the house, Joseph Price, Victor Zaborski, and Dylan Ward, the Metropolitan Police Department, the DC Medical Examiner, and the prosecutors and defense attorneys. The case has also been shaped by media coverage from the Washington Post, the popular streaming app Peacock, and the long-running blog Who Murdered Robert Wone, which has analyzed documents and timelines in details. Even after years of investigation, important questions still hang over the case. What exactly happened between 10:30 and 11:49 p.m.? Was Robert given a drug before he was stabbed? Why was there a delay between the scream and the 911 call? Where's the missing knife? Did the door really chime? And why, with all evidence gathered, has no one been charged with murder?
Looking at how the case has been handled, the police did act quickly and collected a large amount of evidence, but the crime scene was likely changed before they arrived, which limited what they could prove about what happened to Robert. The media has kept the case alive and exposed inconsistencies, but sometimes reporting has blurred the line between allegations and facts. Kathy Wone's lawsuit and public efforts helped keep the attention of the public, but they still couldn't get any sort of confession. Many theories have been created, one of the most popular ones being that Wone was killed in the shower. However, throughout all the theories, one thing tends to stay the same. They all believe the three men were involved. Motive remains unknown, although some believe that Wone was killed because he refused to be in a sexual relationship with the three men. Today, Robert Wone's murder remains unsolved and officially remains open. Many observers believe that newer forensic tools like expanded toxicology, modern DNA analysis, and improved blood pattern testings could still shed light on the little evidence still being used to try to show what really happened. This case shows how a crime scene can hold many clues yet still not lead to an arrest, and how vital it is to secure evidence quickly and use every forensics resource available. It also raises larger questions for us. Should prosecutors ever bring murder charges without direct evidence if all the circumstances point to someone? And can civil settlements harm the chance of getting criminal justice? Do you think one day Wone's family could get justice for him?
Robert's death is still an open wound for his family and friends. It challenges our justice system, our use of forensics, and our expectation of truth. Until more evidence is found or new technology is used, this case will remain one of Washington's most haunting mysteries.